Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's me. Number 4. This is one of those stories that goes beyond a lifetime. The story of an adorable small boy named Milo, who was born with his arm fully grown and only one lung. He was abandoned by his mother after birth because she couldn't take care of him. The doctors gave up on him, but he was saved by a kind-hearted man and grew up to become a successful adult. And it turns out he has a special gift. In today's story, we're going to learn about a small boy who could talk to zombies. Our young protagonist was born in a poor family. His parents were poor farmers from Africa. They worked hard from dusk till dawn so that they could put food on the table for their family. Their little house barely had enough space for all of them. But the greatest tragedy befell the family when their son was born. The baby had no abnormalities at first glance, but soon they realized that something was wrong. The kid was unable to suck milk from his mother's breast like other babies. As time went by, more and more strange things started happening. The boy's condition worsened. He became a burden for his parents. So when he was still very young, his mother took him to a witch doctor. She hoped that the old man would be able to help her child, but the diagnosis sounded like a death sentence for the baby. The witch doctor said that the boy had been born with one fully grown arm and only one lung, which meant he would never have a normal life. When the mother heard this, she burst into tears. Taking care of such a child would be a real challenge for her. The woman understood that her child needed special care, but she was too poor to afford it. So she decided to give her son away. Before leaving, she kissed him on the forehead and left him in the hut. As soon as the woman stepped out of the house, the child stopped crying and a creepy smile appeared on his face. Just then, a terrible storm broke out. Lightning flashed and thunder roared. Suddenly, the door of the hut flew open and some strange people entered. They were tall and thin, their faces were pale, their eyes were glowing red. These were real, flesh-eating zombies. One of them reached out its hand towards the baby. The child smiled even more and whispered, "Don't be afraid. It's gonna be all right." The zombie froze in surprise and lowered its hand. Then another lightning flash illuminated the room and revealed a huge tattoo on the zombie's arm. It depicted a small boy with one arm holding a flower. Right next to it was an inscription that read, "The one who understands will save the world." After reading these words, the zombies fell to their knees before the baby. One of them took off his shirt, revealing a similar tattoo on his chest. The zombies bowed their heads before the baby, acknowledging him as their king. Then they carried him outside and put him in the back of a truck. When the boy was taken out of the hut, the rain suddenly stopped and the sun came out from behind the clouds. The boy sat quietly in the back of the truck while the zombies drove through the forest. Soon, they arrived at a large clearing where many zombies were already waiting. All of them greeted their new king with reverence. At that moment, the boy felt a surge of power and responsibility. He knew that these creatures had once been humans, and now they were cursed to roam the earth as soulless monsters. The boy wanted to help them, and he believed that someday he would find a way to break the curse. Many years passed, and the boy grew up to become a handsome young man. Under the guidance of wise zombies, he learned the history of his people and the reason for their eternal damnation. A long time ago, the ancestors of the zombies were ordinary people living in a small village. One day, a terrible epidemic broke out that turned people into bloodthirsty monsters. Only a few managed to escape the virus, but they all perished during the global flood. In the end, only one boy survived, and he ended up in the same village where the outbreak began. And thus, the cycle of death and rebirth continued over and over again. The young man had unusual abilities. He could communicate with animals, heal the sick, and even raise the dead. But his main talent was the ability to control the zombies. They recognized him as their king, and his word was law to them. However, despite their frightening appearance, the zombies were peaceful creatures. They did not attack humans, but preferred to live in harmony with nature. One day, the young man went hunting with a group of zombies. He needed to get food for the tribe because there was a serious shortage of provisions. Suddenly, he heard a woman screaming in the forest. She was being pursued by a ferocious lion. Without hesitation, the young man rushed to help her. He managed to scare off the beast, and it disappeared into the bushes. It turned out that the woman was the daughter of the local lord. She thanked the young man for saving her life and invited him to visit her father. The young man was wary of humans. He knew firsthand what kind of people can be. However, he decided to take a chance and agreed to the date. The following day, he put on his finest clothes and went to the palace. There, he met the woman's father, a cruel and greedy man who ruled his subjects with an iron fist. Seeing the young man dressed in strange clothes and surrounded by zombies, the Lord immediately ordered his guards to arrest him. The young man tried to explain that he meant no harm, but the king didn't want to listen to him. He ordered the guards to throw him into prison along with his zombie retinue. Meanwhile, the princess managed to escape from her father's palace. She found the young man in prison and offered to help him. The young man refused at first, but then he realized that he couldn't stay locked up forever. Together with the princess, he made a plan to escape. That night, they managed to leave the prison unnoticed. The young man and the princess fled to the forest where they were met by a detachment of loyal zombies. Together, they made their way through the thickets until they reached a clearing. There, they encountered the Lord and his men. A battle ensued, and the Lord was on the verge of defeating the young man. But just then, the princess jumped in front of him, shielding him with her body. The Lord hesitated for a moment, and in that instant, the young man seized his opportunity. He raised his hands, and with a wave of his magic staff, he turned the Lord and his men into zombies. After winning the battle, the young man decided to take the princess to his home. He wanted to introduce her to his people and tell her about the history of the zombies. On the way, they came across a river, but there was no bridge nearby. The young man looked around and saw a fallen tree that could serve as a makeshift raft. However, it wasn't strong enough. The young man waved his magic staff, and vines emerged from the ground, connecting the logs into a single hole. The raft was ready. The young man and the princess got on it, and several zombies jumped into the water to help steer it. They successfully reached the other shore. However, their idyllic life was short. Soon, other members of the royal family arrived who also wanted to claim the throne. They attacked the young man, but he was prepared for the battle. Using his staff, he defeated the pretenders to the throne and chained them up. Then he led them to the edge of the forest and turned them into zombies. From that day on, the young man became known as the King of the Zombies. With the help of his loyal followers, he created a new society where humans and zombies lived side by side. The kingdom flourished, and peace and tranquility reigned throughout the land. And that's all for today. See you later. Bye.